المرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة. تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. We would like to welcome سماحة الشيخ صادق إسماعيل إلى المنبر فليتفضل مصحوبا بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Continue like this. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه طيبين الطاهرين، سيما قائمهم صاحب العصر والزمان عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. عظم الله أجوركم, inshallah. May Allah accept all your deeds. Glad to be here between you again, second time. I remember the first time was just after what was happening in Gaza, and now exactly the time when it's over. So we are gathering here today for many events that inshallah I'm going to talk about briefly. And mainly we are at the end of the month of Rajab, preparing for the next month, the month of Ramadan, of Sha'ban, and next there is the month of Ramadan. These 3 months are always connected together, and the one will prepare for the next one. So I recommend do not underestimate the value of each day of the month of Rajab that we still have. And of course the month of Sha'ban, the hasanats are multiplied, but also the sayyats are also multiplied. And if we do not get prepared well before the start of the month of Ramadan, we're going to be behind. The fasting, the adoration, the reflection, everything should start before the month of Ramadan, not at the beginning of the month of Ramadan. The 3rd month is the last one. And then the peak of the month of Ramadan is Laylatul Qadr, the night of destiny. So we have to be very ready for that night, inshallah. The other event, or the 2 other events that we have at the end of the month of Rajab, one on the 25th, which is today, like today, the Shahadat of Imam Qadim, alayhi salam. And one other important event on the 27th, in 2 days, is the Ba'tha of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Today, inshallah, I'm gonna tackle a topic that needs a little bit of concentration. So let's silence the phones and try to focus with me for the few minutes that I'm going to be in your service, inshallah, and reflect on the topic. If you have any ideas or questions, maybe after in the Q&A session that we can discuss it too. Because maybe it's a subject that is going to be introduced for the first time that you hear about our Imams. So feel free to think freely about it, and then maybe we can have a discussion. Let's recite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, as you all know, we always gather in the community centers and in the mosques to celebrate the wilada of the Imams or commemorate the Shahada of our Imams and our Masumin. Why do we do this? And as believers and Muslims, and especially Shia, why do we consider these 14 people sacred and infallible, and we remember them all the time? Throughout the year, big or small events, depending on the Imam. Why do we consider them like legendary people? Are they like superheroes? Do they really have super skills? There are other people, other prophets, other Masumins. Why only these? So we are called the Shia or the 12er Imamis that we consider. This is the first question. And the second question is, it's a bit confusing that we have the event of the first Imam and the event for the second Imam and the third one. There's 12 of them. Why 12 Imams and then the Prophet and Sayyidah Zahra, 14? Different times, different celebrations, different Shahada. This is confusing, sometimes contradictory. Some of them did wars, some of them were martyred, others did not do wars. So what's the story behind all this? Is there a common track, a common story that we can understand what's going on? Or is it different stories for different people, 14 people, every one of them has his own story, and that's it? So we have to remember the details of each of these stories, and this is gonna be so much. So what's behind that? To summarize, the lives of these 14 people, the 12 Imams and Sayyidah Zahra and the Prophet, are interconnected. So it's not 14 different stories. It's only one story. I'm getting you to the conclusion. I'm just going forward, and then I'm going to explain. It's one story. They are all interconnected in one project that I'm going to talk about right now. We just need to think about it a little bit and try to imagine this interconnection between them so we can have the full image. If I talk about one Imam or the second Imam or another Ma'soom, I can immediately go in my mind, okay, this is the complete image, this is what's going on at this specific time or in that specific event. So it's not separate events. It's not like separate pieces of puzzle. It's one big puzzle. I have to see the whole puzzle. So this is going to make things easier for us. To try to solve this issue first is we have to know, did it start with these 12 people? Why do we have these 12 people after the Prophet, the 12 Imams? And why is it not enough to have God and the Quran and the Prophet? Why do we have to continue after the Prophet with 12 people that you're saying are the same to make things more confusing? So what's going on? The second question is there a project before these 12 people? Are they continuing something, or they are starting something from new thing? So was there something before them? We all know that before them there was the Prophet. So either we stop at the Prophet, or we understand what was going on with the Prophet and why we should continue after him. So was there a project before the 12 Imams? Was there a story, or do we start with the Imams? To understand this, we have to know what was going on with the Prophet himself. What was the mission of the Prophet himself? What was the project of the Prophet himself? And then if we understand this, we can know what was going after the Prophet. So let's talk a little bit about the Prophet himself. And as you know, in 2 days it's the Ba'tha. So it's when the Prophet was sent officially as a prophet and a messenger. He had 40 years old. So it was after 40 years. Why after 40 years also? So I'm not going to talk history, and I'm not going to talk seerah of the Prophet. I'm going to talk something else. I'm going to take a look deeply at few things to try to understand the full image, as I said. So the project of the Prophet, is he the first prophet? No. Is he starting a project, a new project? Of course not. What is he doing? What is the project of the Prophet? It's God's project on earth. In general, we all know this. Did it start with the Prophet? Of course not. Why? Because we had other prophets before him. So it didn't start with the Prophet 1400 years ago. No. Our Prophet is the last prophet, Khatam al-Anbiya. So he was the one whose mission was to fulfill the last episode, to complete the message, to complete the project, the ideal God's project on earth. So he was the last one from the prophets. So we had a project that started thousands of years ago with Prophet Adam, the first human being created by God. And the project started from zero, from people who didn't know how to talk, for humanity, for me and you today. So if you're wondering why are we talking about this right now, it's because it's important for me and you to know where we are right now. Because we are all followers of this project, whether we know why or not. We're all like true believers in this project of the Prophet. And when you follow him, you're a partner. So we have to know what we are doing. So to make it short, the Prophet was continuing this project that started with the first Prophet until we get to the last 5 prophets. Nuh, Ibrahim, Musa, and Isa, and himself, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So the Prophet, all of them, they were dreaming to get to the point that Prophet Muhammad got to fulfill the mission, and to finish all these series of episodes, to get to the last episode. What was that? The Prophet succeeded to do it. He succeeded to accomplish the project in 23 years only of his lifetime, because it started at 40 years old. He had 40 years old when he was officially sent as a prophet from Angel Gabriel, directly from God. So now you are a prophet. He had only 40 years old. And then it took him 23 years. And then he accomplished the project. So he brought the Islamic nation, or the nation at that time, to the ideal government, the ideal Islamic system, Islamic government. He established an ideal Islamic government. What do we mean by Islamic government? Divine government. According to God. This is how a government or a country or a nation should work, should manage things. He succeeded to establish this. So after 23 years, full of events and struggles, every second and every moment of it counted, he succeeded to show us how the Islamic world in the future can be. The ideal Islamic world that we are looking for. And we are waiting for the last Imam to come and lead. He showed us the example, the complete ideal example of the Islamic government, of the world that we are all looking for. So the Prophet did it. We're not going to go in detail how did he do it, what it took him to do it. Just in short, it took him 10 years Like two stages. The first stage was 10 years. The second stage was 13 years. The first stage, 10 years, was in Mecca, before the migration of the Prophet. And the second stage is 13 years in Medina, after the migration of the Prophet. 2 stages. This is why when we count on the Islamic calendar, we say that it started at minus 10, because 10 years before the migration are considered minus, because the Islamic calendar starts at the migration. So year 0 is the year of migration. Only 13 years are left of the life of the Prophet. And then it took him 13 years, so until the year 13. Okay? From minus 10 to the year 13. We're talking about these 23 years. He succeeded to establish a project. And by the way, that project is great enough that it covered almost half of the world. So we're talking about India from the east until Morocco on the west. You go north to Turkey, and after Turkey, south to the middle of Africa. So it's like the whole region. All this was the Islamic world at that time. And when we talk 23 years, to get to this point, and he started with people who used to bury their daughters because they didn't want to have daughters. So a daughter that was just born, they will bury her because she's a girl. So he didn't start with literate, civilized people. He started with this kind of people. They will do long wars fighting on a camel or a horse. With this kind of people. He started with this kind of people, and he got them in 23 years to the great nation, Islamic nation. So this is something that will take lots of sessions to explain, but just to give you an idea where he started with and where he ended. So this was his project. Let's go fast forward. Okay. Such a project will cover all aspects of life. We're not only talking about akhlaq and morals, because he did it. And we're not only talking about social relationships, because he also worked on this. We're not only talking about beliefs and aqa'id of Islam, because he also explained all this to people. Economy, politics, military and war, all aspects of life. Everything was covered. So when we remember the Prophet and what he did, we don't only remember his lectures and his sermons and the hadith, just because he was talking about praying and fasting and ahkam and aqa'id and beliefs. No, he talked about everything. Because he applied it, he did it. He succeeded to establish the ideal government, and the government covers everything. Military, finance, economy, politics, everything. It covers everything. So he was working in parallel on every human aspect. Spirituality, praying, fasting, ahkam, aqa'id, morals, akhlaq, international relationships, politics, economy, everything. So the life of the Prophet and the project of the Prophet covers all aspects of life. Because if not, I cannot call it ideal. And this is not what we're looking for. But the point is, to be able to establish such a project, who are you going to be, Prophet? So he should be perfect, at least. Knowing everything about everything. What we all believe in, that he's Ma'soom and he's the perfect last prophet, and he's designated by God, so of course he's going to know everything, and he's going to be the only one who's going to be capable in all history, in all humanity, to succeed with such a project. Okay, that's obvious. The mysterious part is after him. When someone will establish a company, or start a business, or start a school, or a community center, or whatever, and he will work on it from zero, from scratch, and get it to succeed. And then he's going to step aside for any reason. If he does not put someone after him to continue the project, or the company, or the business, or the school, or the community center, to manage it the right way, and teach him how to manage it the right way, it's going to collapse. obviously. So such a project of the Prophet that succeeded after this short amount of time, and a great project that we're talking about, it doesn't make any sense if he passes away and no one's going to continue the project after him. This is one. Two, can it be anyone? If the Prophet did all this, and he was the Prophet himself, with all his characteristics, can it be anyone to continue after him? If you establish a company, will you bring anyone to become the CEO of this company? Anyone who learned anything? Of course not. He should fit in this position, having all the characteristics and traits needed to continue this greatest project. So at least he should be like the Prophet. Like the Prophet. So this is the project that we're talking about before the 12 Imams. To get to the conclusion, the 12 Imams came after the Prophet to continue this project, safeguard it, protect it, continue it. And they had the same goal, because it's the same project, the same mission, the same intention, the same goal. This is why we say that they are like one person. All these 14 Masum are like one, because they have the same goal, the same plan, the same intention, working on the same project. The only difference is that different times, different tactics. But it's one person, including the Prophet. So, what's going to make us remembering our Imams easier? It's when I know that these 12 Imams are one. What's going to make it more easy is their mission started at the year 13, as I said, when the Prophet passed away, and it took 250 years only. So these 12 Imams that we're talking about, from Imam Ali until Imam Mahdi, the last Imam, it took them only 250 years. So these 250 years, imagine if it's only one man who lived for 250 years, continuing the project, working on the same plan. It took him 250 years. This is why we call the 12 Imams as one Imam of 250 years old, who continued the project after the Prophet. And then, when the Prophet succeeded to get the project to a point of Islamic government and the ideal government that we're talking about, they were struggling and fighting and trying their best to bring it to the same point. Because lots of problems happened immediately the day the Prophet passed away. This was their mission: to return with the project to the surface, make it succeed again. Get back the Islamic government, the ideal government again. If the first Imam didn't succeed, the second after him. If not the second, the third after him. It doesn't have to be at the time of each of these Imams. Even maybe the last one, at least for the short term, the mid-term, the long term. But it has to be established. So it didn't work with the first one, the second one, the third one, for many reasons. It should work with the last one. This is God's plan. We only have 12 of them. Didn't work with any of them. It's going to work with the last one. So they adapted their plan to let the project succeed again. This is what we're looking for in this world. We are looking for the divine government of earth, on earth. This is what we're looking for. This is the mission of our Imam, living Imam today, continuing the same project. So, again, this is what's going to make things easier, is if we zoom out and look at the puzzle from far away. These 12 Imams are one person who lived for 250 years, continuing the same project of the Prophet. Okay, and this is why we commemorate the Shahadas of the Imams and the Wiladas of the Imams. We celebrate it. And we remember our Imams and we talk about them. And we bring a hadith about them. How did they used to live? What did they used to say? The hadith of them. If we see this image, they had this campaign. They were working on something. It's not like we're just hear them talking about praying or talking about fasting and this is what we learn from them, about akhlaq and aqaid only. No. They had a plan and a mission. So if I see this line, I will look at their lives from a different perspective. Now I see there's a continuity from the first Imam to the last Imam. And today we're commemorating the Shahadat of Imam Qadim, who is also on the same line, having the same struggles, fighting for the same cause. We're going to say how. Okay. So, the word that I want to highlight is the political campaign, the political aspect of the Imams that they were working on. So, we do not only learn salat and siyam and fasting and praying and zakat and khums and akhlaq and wajibat and dunya and akhirah from the Imams. Not at all. Because as I said, they have to be like the Prophet. So they have to cover all the aspects of life, including worship and akhlaq, but also politics and economy and social and everything. So we learn everything from the Imams. So if I know the story on this line, on this timeline, that everything is connected, and it's one mission, one project, now I understand what's going on. So, why they had to go through what they went through? Because what happened after the Prophet? Now we continue the story. So, to summarize, the Prophet was sent to, as the ayah said, in the Quran, as the ayah says, رَسُولٌ مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ الْكِتَابَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. 3 tasks for the Prophet. يُزَكِّيهِمْ, purify them. So he was sent as a prophet and a messenger to purify us. So he's going to show us the way how to purify our souls. Be pious and do taqwa. This is on the personal, individual level. 2, يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابِ. Teach them the book, the Quran, and the ahkam, and everything related to Islam, how to do things. This is more the ahkam side and the rules. يَعَلِّمُهُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. And teach them wisdom. So now we're talking about the beliefs and the aqaid. So the Prophet, basically, he had to teach us everything. Purify, teach us the book and the ahkam, and teach us the beliefs and the aqaid and the wisdom and the philosophy and everything behind, how to understand everything beyond. These 3 together will form deen, or Islam, or our religion. So it's ahkam, but also aqaid, but also akhlaq. The Prophet was sent to teach us all these 3. This was his mission. What happened after the Prophet? So he was the head of this government. He was governing and leading everything. After him, the Imams saw that there's a deviation. There's something wrong happening. He was supposed to be the one leading as a divine person, knowing all things about everything. So he's the one supposed to lead people the right way. Now, the one who's taken his position, he's taken it for the money or for the power. And he's not respecting the same rules that we used to respect in Islam. And he's calling himself a prince or a king or an emperor. This is where the deviation started. So they took the position of that person who used to be a prophet, and now they took it for other reasons. Used it, misused it to be in power. This is what happened after the Prophet. And this is where the Imams stood up and said, this cannot happen, because this is going to destroy all the project. This is going to destroy everything. It's not going to only destroy everything, it's going to make it worse. Because if you introduced Islam as being the savior, now you're showing that Islam is the opposite. And this is going to confuse everyone, and this is going to destroy the whole project. This is why they had to stand up. So everything they were saying, everything they were teaching, everything they were talking about, even if it was a lecture or an Islamic lecture about akhlaq or worship or anything, this was for a reason. They had two main objectives, the Imams. And remember that we're talking about the Imams. To know why we commemorate their deaths, why we remember them. What did they do? So this is what happened after the Prophet. But why all of them were killed? If this was the divine project and everyone accepted the Prophet and accepted Islam, and then the Imams were supposed to continue after the Prophet, why they were all killed and martyred, poisoned and imprisoned and massacred? Is it because they were preaching salat and fasting and dua and crying and mourning and God and mysticism and irfan and knowledge and God? Is it because they were talking about this? Not at all. There was something else. This is why they fought them and they killed them. All the Imams. What they were doing. Why? What is the legacy that they were killed for? As I said, they had two main objectives to do. This is the mysterious thing that they were doing, and this is why they were killed. Two main things after the Prophet. When they have seen what was going on, the first thing is presenting Islam the right way. So they have seen that the wrong people are taking power. They have seen that Yazid, for example, who's someone who's going to come to the mosque to do the Jum'ah prayer, drunk. Everyone is going to pray behind him. They see that he's drunk, and they see that he does all the haram things publicly without even feeling the shame of it. And they will still follow him and do the prayer behind him. And then the Imams will ask them, why are we doing this? Because they will say, we can't do anything. We elected him. We chose him. So they got to this situation. So the Imams needed to talk about it and to present Islam the right way. This is not Islam what you're doing. This is not how a Muslim governor should act. So when they talk about praying and fasting and all the ahkam of the Islam and akhlaq, actually they're not talking Islamic courses or Islamic studies or just doing a lecture. They are talking politics because they are showing the mistakes that are done by the actual governor or the Khalifa at that time, the wrong person. When they present the right Islam, they're not talking religion. They present it to show what's going on wrong with the actual Khalifa. So they're talking politics. They're working on something revolutionary. They're waking up people. This is what's going to scare their enemies. And this is why they're killed. So we have to see things differently. We don't have to forget this political aspect at all. But unfortunately, in all the books that talk about the Imams, this is undermined, the political aspect. But it's in line with the project. It is the project itself. How are you going to guide people and lead people and get to the ideal government if you are not the governor? If you are not on top, if you are not the head, if you are not the guide and the leader, it doesn't work. So this was their first objective. Because if they were only talking about praying and fasting, no one will have any problem with them. If they were only talking about religion, no one will have any problem with them. It's like today. If you're a Muslim in this Western new world, modern world, as we call it, and you're only busy doing your prayer and going to the mosque and fasting, no one will say anything to you. But when you stand up and say, I don't accept oppression, because this is what Islam taught me, I don't accept dhulm, they will say, no, terrorist. I don't accept the system or the oppression in this world or the arrogance, no, terrorist. Quickly. Because you're not talking religion anymore. You stepped out, you're talking about something else that's going to trigger your enemies. They're not going to like you. And they're going to put stickers on you. Islamophobia and terrorists and other things. So this is the Islam that they're trying to introduce today. Part of the true Islam, part of the authentic Islam. Only religion and ibadah and praying and fasting and all the things that you can do at home, but nothing else. Because this is Islam, it's a religion. Why do you talk about freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freeing your land and refusing arrogance and oppression? This is not a religion, this is something else. Stop doing it, or you're a terrorist. You're not accepted and you're going to be killed. The worst way possible. Same, is happening today, happened at the time of the Imams. Same thing. They were called things. These Imams are against the government and against the king and against the prince because they're talking about the freedom of speech and not accepting oppression and equality. No, this is wrong. This is why they were called at that time the wrong Shias or the wrong Imams. And they were killed. Same thing is happening today. The second objective of the Imams, so not only presenting the Islam the right way, as I said, with this political perspective. Okay, now you're saying that Islam is this and that, it should be like this, it shouldn't be like that. The next step is to represent the Imams. Okay, if you're saying that he cannot be the governor, who can be the governor? Because this was the confusion at that time. No one knew who's going to succeed the Prophet. This was the biggest problem. The first day, the day the Prophet passed away, the biggest problem, the biggest issue was, okay, who's going to succeed the Prophet? Who's going to be the governor now? Who's going to be the guide? Who's going to be the leader? Who do we follow? This is how it started. This is how the problem started. So the second very important mission of the Imams is to say, okay, if this cannot be the governor, these infallible Imams can be. And they had, of course, the evidence. And why? So they have to present the Imams to the people. And as I said, they have to be like the Prophet, infallible, they know everything, designated by God. This is the least. And this is going to make things more clear for people who to choose and who to follow. How did they do this? As I said, they will count. They will say that if you don't know who to choose, look at the person. Does he have the knowledge he needs? The infallibility? The traits of the prophets and the characteristics of the prophet? The behavior, the spirituality, the devotion? At least this has to be in that person who's going to govern and lead. So this is how they worked step by step with people. The second thing they did is present to people who have these characteristics. Okay, we will tell you who have it. We will tell you who's going to have these characteristics. And they will say who should be that person. So, again, the misconception that we have in our heads, it's because the Imams were good people, pure people, this is why they have been killed. No, that's not all the image. That's not the full story. It's not because they were good people, Muslim, true believers, and pure people they were killed. We had lots of pure scholars and pure people that worked with the Khalifa at that time. And the Khalifa used to pay them money to write books for them. And they were pure people and good people, and they do fasting and praying and everything. This was not the reason. They were killed for something else. They had this political campaign against the wrong system of ruling. This is why they have been fought. To finish with the conclusion, all what the Imams have been through is for this reason. We should not separate the political aspect that the Imams had from the other aspects that they had. Yes, they had the akhlaq, yes, they had the worship, yes, they had the morals, yes, they had the aqa'id, the knowledge, the ilm and everything, but also the guidance, the leadership, the governance, the administration, the political aspect. We don't have to forget this. This is the complete Islam. So we cannot separate this in Islam. It's all of them. And this is why the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam stood up in Hajj in front of everyone, in front of the Kaaba, and talking to people, trying to clarify this for them. People remember the Prophet was the Imam. He said it to people. The Prophet was the Imam. He's trying to let them understand. When we talk about Imams, well, the Prophet was the first one. And then Ali, and then Hassan, and then Hussein, and then until he gets to himself. So the Prophet was the first Imam. What do we mean? What do we mean by Imam? The leader, the guide, the governor. This is what we call Imam in Arabic. It has all these meanings. The person that we should follow in every aspect. The Prophet was this person. Why do you want to cut that line after the Prophet? It should continue. I hope that was clear for today, inshallah. And as I said, if anyone has an idea or anything to discuss later, inshallah, I'm at your service. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं, आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं, आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं, आबिदे आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं, आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं। जिसको ज़ैनब के लिए, जिसको ज़ैनब के लिए पर्दा कहीं मिलता नहीं, आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं, आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता जिसको ज़ैनब के लिए, जिसको ज़ैनब के लिए पर्दा कहीं मिलता नहीं, आबिदे बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं। देखो ना मेरा तमाशा, रोके आबिद ने कहा, साथ मेरे आई है होके वो कैदी बेरदा, नंगे सर जिसको कभी, नंगे सर जिसको कभी बाबा ने भी देखा नहीं, आबिद बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं। गम न करना तू सकीना सफर में ज़ैनब के साथ, सीने पे सो जाना माँ के जब भी हो जाएगी रात। लौट कर आएगा अब, लौट कर आएगा अब, बेटी तेरा बाबा नहीं। आबिद बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं।
आबिद बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं। आबिद बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं।
देखो ना मेरा तमाशा, रोके आबिद ने कहा, साथ मेरे आए हैं होके वो कैदी बेरिदा। नंगे सर जिसको कभी, नंगे सर जिसको कभी बाबा ने भी देखा नहीं। आबिद बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं। आबिद बीमार की आँखों से खून रुकता नहीं। या
حسین یا حسین دلم داره بهونت که منم گدای خونت باب الحوائج موسی بن جعفر باب الحوائج موسی بن جعفر باب الحوائج everyone موسی بن جعفر باب الحوائج موسی دلم داره بهونت که منم گدای خونت باب الحوائج موسی بن جعفر باب الحوائج موسی جعفر باب الحوائج جعفر قسم به خودت آقا قسم به خودت آقا ندارم جایی جز اینجا ندارم جایی جز اینجا باب الحوائج موسی باب الحوائج جعفر باب الحوائج جعفر دلم داره بهونت دلم داره بهونت که منم گدای خونت که منم گدای خونت باب الحوائج موسی بن جعفر باب الحوائج موسی بن جعفر باب الحوائج موسی بن جعفر قسم به خودت آقا قسم به خودت آقا ندارم جایی جز اینجا، ندارم جایی جز اینجا. باب الهوایج موسی باب الهوایج موسی جعفر باب جعفر. سرمایه اشک و آه آوردم در محضر تو گناه آوردم، با من تو به جز وفا نکردی، دست گدا رو رها نکردی. با من تو به جز وفا نکردی، دست گدا رو رها نکردی. یا مولا ای انیس قلب مزتر، گل یاس گشت پر پر، هفتمین حجت داور، هفتمین حجت داور، سیدی موسی بن جعفر. یا مولا سیدی موسی بن جعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر نجعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر، سیدی موسی بن جعفر. دلم میخواد ای آقا، دلم میخواد ای آقا، کاظمین بیام ایشالله، کاظمین بیام ایشالله. باب الهوایج موسی بن جعفر، باب الهوایج موسی بن جعفر، باب الهوایج جعفر. خوشم با غمت آقا، خوشم با غمت آقا، فدای حرمت آقا. باب الهوایج موسی بن جعفر، باب الهوایج جعفر، باب الهوایج ابن جعفر. دلم میخواد ای آقا، دلم میخواد ای آقا، کاظمین بیام ایشالله، کاظمین بیام ایشالله. باب الهوایج موسی بن جعفر، باب الهوایج موسی بن جعفر، باب الهوایج فر. خوشم با غمت آقا، خوشم با غمت آقا، فدا حرمت آقا، فدا حرمت آقا. باب الهوایج موسی بن جعفر، باب الهوایج موسی بن جعفر، باب الهوایج. ای خاک تو عرش کبریایی، دلها میشه اونجا کربلایی. ای ای خاک تو عرش کبریایی، دلها میشه اونجا کربلایی، دل داده کاظمینم آقا، من زنده به یا حسینم آقا، من زنده به یا حسینم آقا. یا حسین ای حقیقت خدایی، تو غریب آشنایی، ای شهید کربلایی، تو ذبیح بالغفایی. یا حسین ای حقیقت خدایی، تو غریب آشنایی، ای شهید کربلایی، تو ذبیح بالغفایی، تو ذبیح بالغفایی. یا حسین 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 حسین یا حسین یا حیدر 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 حیدر یا زهرا 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 یا حسن 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 حسن یا زینب یا زینب یا زینب یا زینب زینب یا 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 زینب اول فاز 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 فاز یا حجت ابن الحسن عجل علی ظهورک یا حجت ابن الحسن ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن عجل على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن يا حجة ابن الحسن ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن عجل على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن يا حجة ابن الحسن عجل على ظهورك چه عالمیست عالم باب الحوائجی چه عالمیست عالم باب الحوائجی با توست با توست نور اعظم باب الحوائجی. یا موسی ابن جعفر مهر توست حلقه وصل خدا و خلق، داری به دست خاتم باب الحوائجی، در عرش و فرش واسطه فیض و رحمتی بر دوش توست پرچم باب حوائجی. صلی الله علیک یا ابا عبدالله، صلی الله علیک یا مظلوم یا ثار الله یا ابا عبدالله. Everyone recite the السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Everyone السلام عليكم الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى غلب زينب السبور وعلى العباس. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طمعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك واكفنا يا قاضي الحاجات ويا كافي المهمات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة والإخلاص مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
عدنانو
No, I do have in my